Welcome to the Reinvention Code. I'm your host, Dorinda Walker. Reinvention isn't random, it has a code. On this podcast, we'll explore what it really takes to navigate life's transitions with introspection, faith, and strategy. If you're evolving, rebuilding, or stepping into a new season, you're not just starting over, you're leveling up. Let's decode your next chapter together. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of the Reinvention Code. I'm your host, Dorinda Walker. Today, I want to talk about titles, not the ones on a resume, the ones underneath it. Early in my career, I thought my corporate title mattered. I was proud because I chased it, I earned it, I let it introduce me before I said a word. Vice president, executive, and now executive vice president. Those titles open doors. They get me into rooms. And for a long time, I believed they told people who I am. Now, at the age of 55, I realize those titles don't move me the way they used to. The titles I truly cherish now are the ones that really matter because I've come to realize they carry so much more weight. Those are the titles of daughter, wife, mother, sister. Now, to be clear, I'm an only child. I have no biological siblings. But I'm at an age now where the women and a few select men in my circle feel like sisters and brothers, not by blood, but by bond. And that is truly a blessing. You know that saying, you can pick your friends, but you can't choose your family? And for so many of us, we've learned that the hard way because we now know that family isn't always your friend. So I've stopped measuring family by blood a long time ago. I measure it by who shows up because that's the list that I know actually matters. But here's what nobody prepares you for. Now I carry another title, widow. And that one changed how I feel about the title of wife because it's been my biggest blessing and caused my deepest pain. It's a blessing because I got to hold that title at all. Like, I realized that. And the beauty that came with being in a committed relationship for 33 years, because I know what it was to be chosen, to build a life with someone and to be loved in a way that helped shape me as the woman and mother I am today. And it's pain because that title didn't retire. It got reassigned by God without my permission. I didn't stop being a wife because I stopped loving my husband. I became a widow because God said it was his time to move on. So today I want to talk about identity. What happens when the titles we build our whole lives? So today I want to talk about identity. What happens when the titles we build our whole lives around shift, disappear, or get replaced with ones we never asked for? Let's start with the corporate title, because that's the one many of us are wrestling with right now, with so much job loss, particularly among Black men and women. I think about a friend of mine, 22 years at the same company. She didn't just have a job there. She had a whole identity built around the badge that she wore. She trained new hires. She sat on the leadership committee. People introduced her by her title before they ever said her name. She was also the primary breadwinner for her family. Her paycheck wasn't just funding vacations and extras. It was the mortgage, the health insurance, the safety net for everyone she loved. So when that title mattered to her, it didn't just mean it fed her ego. It fed her household. Then one Tuesday morning, an impersonal email ended all of it. This is your 2-week notice, as if those 22 years didn't matter. She told me the hardest part wasn't just the money, though the money mattered more than most people would ever admit. It was waking up the next day and not knowing what to call herself, while also doing the math in her head on how many months of savings stood between her family and real trouble. Right after those 2 weeks, her calendar was empty for the first time in over 2 decades. And underneath all of it sat this quiet, constant fear. What happens to the people who depend on me if I can't fix this fast enough? And she said something to me that I've never forgotten. I never thought this would be my life, and I don't know how to protect my family if I can't figure this out quickly. My heart broke for her because so many of us quietly let our worth get tied to the job, being useful, being productive, being the one who holds it all together financially. And when that's suddenly gone or taken away, whether it's a layoff or a company restructuring or an early retirement you didn't ask for, it doesn't just feel like a career setback. It feels like the floor dropping out from under your identity and sometimes under your whole household. If that's you right now, I want you to hear me. What happened to your job title is not a verdict on who you are, and it's not a measure of your value. A title may give you a shortcut. You say, I'm vice president, president, or CEO, and the room adjusts. People listen differently. You don't have to prove anything in that first 60 seconds because the title already did it for you. That can feel powerful. I know from experience, but I also know it can be a trap because somewhere along the way, we stop separating the authority we earn from the person underneath it. We start to believe the title is the proof, but what happens when we lose it? Do we lose our credibility, our respect, a seat at the table? That only happens if we allow it, if we allow the title to define us. It took me years to understand something simple. The title didn't make me capable. I made the title look damn good by my talent and skill. And my talent and skill stay with me. So here's the part nobody talks about. Titles don't just disappear from a career. They disappear from your life. So for me, wife was the most cherished title I had in my life. And I took it for granted until it disappeared. When my husband passed, I didn't just lose him. I lost the title that came with him. I went from wife to widow in a single moment. And nobody asks you if you're ready for that reassignment. It just happens. And in that silence, I had to ask myself a question. Who am I underneath the title? Because wife had shaped how I moved through the world. It shaped my routines, my plans, my sense of being chosen by someone every single day. And when it was gone, I didn't know how to introduce myself for a while. And that may sound crazy. And this has a name, and it's something I didn't understand or know until I started researching. What I went through, what a lot of you are going through, actually has a name in psychology. Several, actually. The first is called career enmeshment. That's when the line between who you are and what you do disappears completely. Your job stops being something you do and becomes the thing that tells you if you matter. You know you're in it when a bad performance review doesn't just sting for a day, it wrecks your whole week. Or when someone asks, so what do you do at a dinner party? And your answer comes out before you even think about it because it's not information, it's identity, it's that title. The second is occupational over identification. This is when your sense of self is so tied to your role that stepping away from it, even for something as simple as vacation, feels threatening. Have you ever noticed a person who can't fully unplug on a trip? I'm guilty of that. Checking the email at the pool, taking just one phone call during the family dinner. That's not just a bad habit. That's a nervous system that doesn't know who it is without the job running. And the third is something researchers now call workism. It's the idea that work has become our primary source of meaning, purpose, and identity, sometimes replacing faith and family and hobbies altogether. We used to work to live, and a lot of us have flipped that. We live to work, and we don't even notice that we did it. Here's why this matters beyond the label. When your identity is fused to a title, every professional setback becomes a personal one. A layoff doesn't just cost you income, it costs you your sense of self. A demotion doesn't just sting your pride, right? It can trigger something that feels like grief because, in a way, it is grief. Even retirement, something people spend decades looking forward to, can trigger a real identity crisis because the title that organizes your days, your worth, your calendar just stops. I lived a lot of this, and I know some of you are living it right now. And what I've learned is by naming it, it takes the power away. When you can say, this is career enmeshment, or this is workism, doing what workism does, instead of just feeling like you're falling apart for no reason, you can start to separate the panic from the person underneath it. I want to challenge 3 beliefs the same way I did in episode 2, because I think they apply here too, just in a deeper place. So here's the belief. Without my title, I'm invisible. And here's the fact. You were never visible because of the title. People responded to what you carried underneath it. Your judgment, your care, your presence. The title was just a label on the box. It was never the box itself. Here's another belief. If I'm not wife or husband anymore, I don't know who I am in love. And here's the fact. You are still someone who knows how to love deeply. That capacity didn't get buried with your spouse, right? It's still yours. It's just looking for a new or different place to live. Here's another belief. Starting over in a career or in life means starting from zero. But here's the fact. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from evidence. Every title you ever held taught you something that the title itself didn't own. That knowledge is still yours. It goes where you go. Remember, your title is the container and your talent is the currency. Here's something else I've come to believe. Some titles can be retired. Vice president, director. Those end with a resignation letter, a layoff notice, and eventually they stop defining you if you let them. But some titles never retire. They transform. For me, wife became widow, but it didn't erase what I built as a wife. I still know how to be loved. I still know how to partner with someone. I still carry everything I learned in that title, even though the title itself changed. I want to stay on this title a little longer because widow, it deserves more than a passing mention. When your spouse passes away, you don't enter a season of sadness. It's much bigger than that. You enter something with a name, and it's called bereavement. And it comes with a new status attached to it, widowhood. And here's what I didn't know until I lived it and then went looking for answers. A long-term partnership doesn't just share your bed and your calendar. It shapes how your brain maps to the world. Your spouse becomes part of your internal wiring, how you plan a day, how you picture the next 20 years, who you turn to when something good or bad happens. So when they're gone, your brain doesn't update instantly. It keeps expecting them. And that's not weakness. That's not just moving on. That's neurology. Researchers call it a real neurological readjustment. And it's part of why widowhood can feel less like sadness and more like disorientation. Like the map you've been used to your whole adult life keeps taking you in circles. Grief on top of that doesn't move in a straight line either, right? You've probably heard of the stages: shock, denial, anger, depression, acceptance. What they don't tell you is that it's not a staircase, right? It comes in waves. You can feel acceptance on a Tuesday and get knocked flat by anger on a Thursday over something as small as filling out a freaking form. Which brings me to something that caught me off guard. On government forms, tax forms, insurance forms, the box isn't single, it's widowed. And that distinction matters more than people realize. Being widowed carries a different weight than never having been married. It says I built a life with someone and it was taken. Not that it never existed, but having to check that box over and over in rooms that have nothing to do with grief can be exhausting. It can feel jarring, isolating even. And then there's the part that lives in the body, not just the mind. Doctors and researchers have documented what's sometimes called the widowhood effect, a real psychological toll that grief takes, including the stretch of lowered immune function and a kind of emotional exhaustion that goes bone deep. Some of you may call it a broken heart syndrome. And it's not a metaphor. It's your heart and your body that are genuinely processing a loss of significant magnitude. I share all of this because I don't want you to think, if you're experiencing widowhood right now, that you're falling apart for no reason. If you're the one checking the box on that form today, you're not falling apart. You're grieving a title that your whole nervous system had memorized. Everything I just shared came from losing a spouse to death. That's my story, but it's not the only story. I've watched marriages in other ways too. I've seen divorce handled amicably, two people closing a chapter with respect, still intact. And I've seen it embitterly with betrayal, with lawyers, with a version of love that curdled into something neither person recognized. I'm blessed that I don't have that personal experience with what it means to outgrow a long-term relationship or to rebuild trust after betrayal. And I won't pretend that I do, but I've sat close enough to it with people I love to know this much. Divorce doesn't just end a marriage. It changes how you see yourself, and it changes how you're willing to let love in again. When wife becomes ex-wife or husband becomes ex-husband, that title just didn't get reassigned by loss. It got renegotiated by choice or by heartbreak, or sometimes both at once. And however it happened, it leaves you asking a lot of the same questions widowhood asks. Who am I without this title? Can I trust the next person the way I trusted this one? I'll say this part just for me because it's true, and I think some of you need to hear it. I've been a widow for 4 years now, which also means that I'm single for 4 years. And if I'm honest, I don't know if marriage is something I still want. Do I want a loving, monogamous relationship again? Absolutely. Do I need to live with that person full time, share a roof, merge a whole life the way I once did? Not necessarily. I've come to believe we get to choose, and it doesn't have to be defined by what society deems acceptable or would work for me at 25 or even the 33 years I had with my husband. It just has to work for me now in this season. Whether your relationship ended in a hospital room like mine or a courtroom conversation that had been years in the making, the title changing doesn't mean you disappear underneath it. It just means you get to decide on your own terms what love looks like from where you are now. Now let's talk about the title of mother or father and why it never leaves you. For years, you're the manager. You're enforcing bedtimes, checking homework, buckling seatbelts, kissing every scraped knee. And then something extraordinary happens. One day, they stop needing you to tie their shoes, to buckle their seatbelt, or to kiss every scraped knee. They start becoming their own people. They develop opinions you didn't teach them, dreams you never imagined for them, strengths you didn't even realize they possessed. And you get a front row seat to watch pieces of yourself live on in someone else, while at the same time watching them become completely different from you. There is no promotion in the world that can compare to hearing your child say, "Mom," or "Dad, I got the job," or watching them become an incredible parent, or seeing them navigate disappointment with resilience, show kindness when no one is looking, or make a difficult decision because it was the right one and not the easy one. In those moments, you realize your greatest legacy was never going to be your resume. It was going to be the human beings you helped raise. My children have taught me as much about life as I ever taught them. They taught me patience when I didn't have any left. They taught me that joy can be found in the smallest moments. They taught me that love isn't measured by perfection, but by presence. They taught me that the most meaningful investment you'll ever make is in people, because people are the only thing that truly outlive us. Today, my children are adults with children, careers, dreams, and lives of their own. They don't need me in the same ways they once did, but the joy hasn't diminished. If anything, it's grown, because now I don't just get to love my children. I get to admire them. I get to respect them. I get to cheer them on as they build lives that are beautifully their own. And that's the miracle of parenthood. That's the blessing. You spend years teaching your children how to live, only to discover they end up teaching you why life is worth living. Let that sit for a moment. So when I say parenthood doesn't retire, I don't mean it stays the same. I mean it keeps growing into whatever your child needs it to be next. So maybe the question isn't, what title do I have left? Maybe it's, what did the title build in me that's still standing, that's still part of who I am? That's the difference between a title you perform and a title you live inside of. Now let's talk about another title you never lose, and that's somebody's son or daughter. No matter how old we become, we're always somebody's child. Over the years, I've had several friends call me after losing a parent, usually in the middle of the night or just before sunrise, asking me the same question. How did you do it? How did you get through it? And every time my heart breaks because I know there's no magic formula. They're asking how you survive the kind of loss that changes the landscape of your life forever. Because losing a parent, especially a parent who was your safe place, your biggest cheerleader, or simply the person who knew you the longest, creates an ache that words can never fully explain. It's the realization that the people who gave you life are no longer here to witness it. And that hurts, and it should hurt. Love that deep leaves a mark that will never go away. But as I sat with my own grief, I've come to believe something that has brought me peace. The greatest way we can honor our parents isn't by allowing their loss to stop us from living. It's by living the kind of life they prayed for us to have. Think about it. How many sacrifices did they make so we could have opportunities they didn't? How many nights did they stay awake worrying about us? How many prayers did they whisper over our lives? How many dreams did they quietly place inside us before we even believed in it ourselves? Would they really want us to stop living because they were gone? Or would they want us to keep thriving? If you're a parent yourself, I think you know the answer. The last thing I would ever want is for my children to spend the rest of their lives imprisoned by my physical loss. I want them to grieve. I want them to miss me for sure. And I absolutely want them to remember me and tell my grandchildren and great-grandchildren about me. But more than anything, I want them to laugh again. I want them to travel and see the world, to fall in love, to become extraordinary parents themselves, to squeeze every ounce of joy out of this life. Because if I did my job well, my greatest legacy won't be that they couldn't live without me. It will be that they learned how to live because of me. Maybe that's the invitation grief eventually gives us, to carry our parents forward, not by standing still, but by continuing the life they worked so hard to give us. So how do we actually do this? How do we find ourselves underneath the titles? Here's a practice I want to leave you with. Take a moment after this episode and write down 5 things you're proud of that no title gave you. Not I was vice president or director or CEO, but something like I know how to walk into a hard conversation and stay honest. I know how to love someone even when it costs me parts of myself. I know how to keep going when I have every reason to stop. Those are yours, and no company issued them. No marriage certificate, no layoff notice can take them back. And that's where identity actually lives, not in the title. It's in what the title revealed you were capable of all along. I didn't stop being the person who could get it done when my work title changed. I didn't stop knowing how to love deeply when I became a widow. Sure, the container changed, but I didn't. So before I close, here are my reinvention codes for this episode. Code number 1, titles get handed to you. Identity gets built by you. Code number 2, some titles retire, others transform. Wife became widow, but everything I built as a wife is still mine. Code number 3, ask who validated you. Was it the title or was it you? Code number 4, identity built on a role is rented. Identity built on what you carry is owned. And code number 5, You didn't lose yourself when the title changes. You met yourself. So the next time someone asks you, what do you do or who you are now that something has changed? I want you to answer with who you are first, not the title. You. Who are you? I'm Dorinda Walker. I'm a woman of God. I'm the mother to Janae, Thomas, and Timothy. I'm the grandmother to Shugs. I'm the woman who executes well and with precision. I'm a creator. I'm a woman who likes to vacation. I'm a woman with great intuition. I'm a woman who can read the room unlike no other. That is who I am. And that's just part of who I am. As always, if this episode resonated with you, please like, comment, and share. And until the next episode, I wish you much peace, much joy, and many, many blessings. God bless. Thank you for listening to the Reinvention Code. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who's stepping into their next season. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. Remember, reinvention isn't random. It has a code. I'll see you next time.